There were large celebrations in Oklahoma City and Tulsa last weekend to celebrate Juneteenth. And while it is not yet a recognized state holiday, each year thousands of people come together to recognize the significance of the day for African Americans. Moderator Reese Wetzel has more in this week's edition of our in-depth conversation.
Thank you, Rich. And today we will be discussing Juneteenth and breaking down the history of the holiday. Joining us to do so, we have J.B. Williams, musician, business owner, and activist here in Oklahoma City. Professor Jermaine Thibodeau, African American Studies, assistant professor at the University of Oklahoma. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
All right, JB, I want to get started with you here. Let's look at the celebrations here in Oklahoma City. How have they grown? I know that you put on one of the celebrations in Oklahoma City. Have you seen more people kind of drawing to that and more people kind of understanding the history behind the holiday?
Yeah, I don't know if people are understanding the history specifically, but I do know that the awareness and wanting to know more about it has grown. Our festival started with about 10 committee members. Now we're at about 25. The same with volunteers. We started a 5K last year. We had about 800 people join us for our Juneteenth 5K last year. This year we had 1,600 people run. And then the same, for just the festival overall, we've seen the numbers grow. We were about probably around 10,000 people this year. So I know that the interest is growing. And I'm definitely seeing, just the numbers of people want to participate in things that are centered around Juneteenth for sure.
Now, are you seeing all communities come together or kind of joining in on this?
Yeah, definitely. People from all walks of life, all different communities, all different backgrounds, white, black. But even in our community, we have people who are white, we have Hispanic, all types. So. And I think that's the importance of Juneteenth is that, the celebration isn't, of course it's about, black people, but it's not just for black people to celebrate.
Yeah, and that kind of goes with Martin Luther King Jr. Day as well. We've seen some similarities there. Do you kind of feel the same way? It's a holiday for everybody?
Well, yes, but I always urge a bit of caution not to, as I've seen on Twitter lately, not to all lives matter Juneteenth. I think it's still important to recognize the unique history of the holiday and what and who it was meant for. Enslaved black people who gained their freedom on June 19th in Texas, right? Maybe 2 months, almost 2 months after the end of the Civil War. So 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, right? But yeah, I would say what I have been seeing also though, has been sort of a multiracial, multi-generational group of folks doing important work in various communities across not only probably the state, but across the country, irrespective of race for the most part. And I think that's kind of the way that the MLK holiday has ultimately sort of evolved over time. I suspect Juneteenth will also become another day like the MLK holiday for the most part. But again, I always urge caution not to sort of forget the historical and symbolic importance of the day. It is, fundamentally a black, I don't want to say a black holiday, but it is a day.
Well, is it a Black Independence Day?
Well, yes, and some people actually, it has many names, right? Or it has had many names over time, but certainly it is Black Independence Day, not to take over the National Independence Day that we celebrate in this country, but yeah, Black Independence Day it is.
Yeah, and JB, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, what he's trying to say is like this day is important to elevate and center black people and black voices. I think that's the difference between, for instance, MLK Day and Juneteenth, is that you'll go to an MLK celebration and, you'll see an array of speakers. Some might be white, some might be, a bunch of different cultures and races, right? Because those are the things and the philosophies that centered around what MLK was about. But specifically this day is a day to highlight and elevate black voices. So, we shouldn't go to a Juneteenth festival and, or a Juneteenth event and hear somebody white speaking see a white performer. You know what I'm saying? It's a day for those people to just celebrate Black people and lift up Black voices. And so with our festival, that's what we try to do. We only give platform to Black people, and there's opportunities for other races and other cultures to participate with volunteering and helping, and they're on our committee and things like that. But the platform is for Black voices.
So it's a learning experience for other cultures
Definitely.
while having the Black community, actually represent and take part in it.
Definitely.
All right, well, I want to turn now to this conversation more about the state. Oklahoma does not recognize it as a holiday yet. JB, how does that make you feel? I mean, does that upset you a little bit that it's still not seen yet as a holiday here?
I mean, I don't know if it upsets me, but I think that it just reminds me of where I am and how far behind Oklahoma is in a lot of ways. I remember in school, like for instance, we would always say like, Texas gets all the good music first, or New York had all the good fashion first and things like that. So we were always talking about how Oklahoma was so slow and so behind. And this is just the same thing, just in another arena. And I think, what it makes me feel is that, when I think about Oklahoma and the culture and heritage of Black people, being a state that has the most Black towns, being a state that was supposed to be for Black people, when I think about the footprint of Black people in Oklahoma, all it does is remind me of how little our government thinks of Black people.
Would you like to add anything to that?
Well, I mean, you can sort of see some of the parallels, I guess, to the King holiday again, right? Where some states were kind of slow to approve or observe King Day as a state holiday, and I think for a lot of those states that were sort of slow to the party, if you will, economic concerns, right, costs, right, but also just some good old, I don't want to say Southern, that Southern racial mentality was fairly pervasive. But, there are a myriad of reasons why some states sort of slow walk to acknowledge and observe these sort of big national holidays. I think with the King holiday, which became federal, I think in 1986 was the first time we observed it. And it wasn't until maybe 1999 before all states fully, recognized it. So, and in the Deep South, there are some states that celebrate King holiday in conjunction with Robert E. Lee Day, which is really bizarre, right? So, thinking about Oklahoma, as JB pointed out, like it should be a leader in so many ways. Largely because of its Black history, its proximity to Texas, right? But, for whatever reason, the state is still sort of walking eerily slow behind a lot of other states who have sort of taken up the mantle and run with it. So,
I think one of the reasons is it's easier for states to be accepting of a Martin Luther King Day is because his foundation was in church. And you can kind of like you can draw the line between Martin Luther King and Christianity, and I think that whenever you start to get into slavery, when you start to get into Black people who at this time they were given a religion and given a faith and told what they couldn't read and what they were supposed to read and what they were not to write and things like that, then it kind of it's hard to accept it, knowing that you can't lean on this being a Christian thing, you can't lean on this being about God, it's really about the brutality of America and that tragic history that a lot of people want to try to ignore, sweep under the rug, or pretend didn't happen.
Well, speaking to that, we had 3 years ago the death of George Floyd in 2020. How has progress been since then as a state and as a nation? Jermaine, if you want to take that one first.
Well, I would say it's a mixed bag, right? So one thing that brought me to Oklahoma from Boston, right, was this idea that seeing all of these young, energetic, engaged students really picking up the torch and running with it. They wanted change, they wanted systemic change, and they wanted to use their voices and resources to get that change to manifest. So in the immediate aftermath, I think we all saw a flurry of corporate ideas surrounding diversity and inclusion, et cetera, right? Righting the wrongs of the past. But somehow, some way, a lot of those efforts have been stalled or forgotten completely. So for the good that did emerge out of it, I think has been, again, that sort of, I don't know if it's renewed, but certainly this mentality amongst young, sort of the Gen X, and some millennials and others as well, recognizing the power of their voices and sort of making change happen in the country and, of course, in the state. But again, we still have so far to come because the backlash has been quite extensive and really troubling.
JB, anything you'd like to add there?
No, he was right. I think that since then it's caused a bunch. We've seen some change for sure. We've seen some people who normally would be thinking a one way watch a man be executed, and start understanding like what people have been saying is actually true and really does happen, So for that reason, I think there has been some great things, and like he said, it's caused, a whole generation of people to rise up and be bold about what they believe in and what they feel is right. And then for us, who are on that side, it's caused us to look in the mirror and and actually decide, are we going to choose, to work for the people? Are we going to choose clout? Are we going to choose money? Are we going to choose, like all these things we started to have to grapple with just within our own selves and our own community and decide like, listen, like we're fighting against this system. And then at the same time, we have to be mindful of, how we're behaving and how we're treating each other and not be caught up in, the moment of, having the mic or, getting the funds and things like that. But really, really taking care and fighting for the people, because if you're fighting for the people, when you're fighting for the people, all that stuff shouldn't matter. And so I think on both sides, there's been a lot, but I think, having people really see that these things we have been talking about for years are actually happening is probably, what I've been able to see the most be, I guess good in a sense.
Well, are you hoping that, your celebrations that you put on draw crowds and that the legislators or people of Oklahoma see that and hope to, act on that and let them know that they're recognized and seen? Is that one of your goals?
Yeah, I think that's a big goal. I think the bigger we get, the more numbers we draw, will kind of help lead that. And because, we know the people have the power, numbers is power. So yeah, I hope that the more education, the more people who want to be involved, the larger our event gets and the larger our voice gets and our footprint gets with these events and celebration, yes, for sure.
How do you get it out of just, the metro communities? How do you get this word to spread to other communities? We talked about Norman has been kind of doing a celebration here in the last 2 years. How do you get it to these other sub-communities?
I guess for me as a professor at OU, one of the best ways is just to sort of, use the platform that I have with the students that I have, and hopefully in the classroom and on campus, they're hearing things that matter and they're taking these things back and disseminating them into and across their communities. But I'll say as well, social media has been a boon, and it's really helped, I think, spread a great deal of awareness across various issues affecting Oklahomans across racial lines. So that has been, as a newbie here, just going on social media and seeing what people across the state are saying about what's happening here in the State House, et cetera, that's been refreshing. So I know that there are people out there who care and want to see the state sort of march towards some progress or make progress on various fronts. And I think, again, I always want to give credit to this younger generation. They are making things happen. Probably not at the speed that they'd like, but I'm seeing the energy there, and I hope that, at OU and other places, other higher institutions of higher education, that we put forth students who will continue to sort of shake the table, if you will, to get things done across this state and across the country.
All right, well, last question here, JB. We just finished up Juneteenth 2023. Are you already looking to Juneteenth 2024, trying to figure out what's next? How do you grow this celebration? Where do you go from here?
Yeah, definitely looking. I'm already, having conversations about. This was 2023. I'm looking 2024.
Yeah.
But I don't. I always try to lean on, letting things be organic, not overdoing it, and just letting things grow gradually. Because you don't want to go too big and then not be able to sustain, or you see the next year you can't do as big as you did the year before. So. Just pacing myself and just trying to do it the right way, and not make it about me, not make it about one person, not make it about my personality or my character, but the community as a whole.
That's great. Well, we are out of time here. I would like to thank you, J.B. Williams, Professor Jermaine Thibodeau. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us and having this conversation.
Thank you.